What if one of the oldest solutions to bad breath costs less than $1, sits in almost every kitchen, and has been quietly used for generations by people who rarely depend on commercial mouthwash? In Amish communities across rural America, many families still rely on simple homemade remedies passed down through generations. Among them is a surprisingly ordinary ingredient that outsiders often overlook completely: salt. While modern store shelves are packed with brightly colored mouthwashes promising fresh breath and healthier gums, some Amish households continue using a traditional salt-based rinse that has stood the test of time. But what makes this old-fashioned practice so effective? And why have generations continued using it when countless modern alternatives exist? The answer reveals far more than a simple oral care trick. It opens a window into a way of life built on practicality, self-reliance, and forgotten wisdom. And the most fascinating part may not be the salt itself. On a quiet Amish farm, the day often begins before sunrise. The first sounds are not alarms or smartphone notifications. Instead, roosters crow across mist-covered fields. Horses shuffle in their stalls. Lantern light glows softly through farmhouse windows as families prepare for the day ahead. Life moves differently here. Many Amish communities value simplicity, choosing practices that are affordable, practical, and proven through generations of experience. Among those traditions are numerous homemade remedies for everyday problems, from preserving food to soothing minor discomforts and maintaining personal hygiene. One practice that continues to attract attention from curious outsiders is the use of simple salt rinses for oral care. At first glance, it seems almost too simple to be effective. But as we'll discover, the story behind this humble remedy reveals important lessons about health, tradition, and the surprising power of basic ingredients. Imagine stepping into an Amish farmhouse kitchen on a cold winter morning. A wood stove radiates warmth into the room. Homemade bread cools on a wooden table. Jars of preserved vegetables line pantry shelves nearby. Everything has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. For generations, many Amish families have approached healthcare with the same practical mindset. When a remedy works, remains affordable, and can be prepared at home, it often earns a permanent place in family traditions. Salt has long been one of those trusted household staples. For centuries, people around the world have used salt not only to preserve food but also to clean wounds, soothe sore throats, and maintain oral hygiene. Many Amish families inherited this knowledge from parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. Long before commercial mouthwashes became common, saltwater rinses were already being used in countless households. The Amish simply continued a practice that much of modern society gradually replaced. But that's only part of the story. The real reason this tradition survived has less to do with resisting modern products and more to do with something deeply rooted in Amish culture. One of the defining characteristics of Amish life is practicality. Every tool, purchase, and habit is often evaluated through a simple question. Does it truly serve a useful purpose? This mindset influences everything from transportation to farming equipment and household routines. On Amish farms, you'll often find carefully maintained gardens, hand-built furniture, and food preservation methods that have remained largely unchanged for generations. These practices endure because they consistently work. The same philosophy applies to personal care. Rather than constantly searching for the newest product, many Amish families rely on methods that have already proven themselves over decades. Salt fits perfectly into this approach. It's inexpensive. It's widely available. It's easy to store. And it requires no complicated instructions. In a world where advertisements constantly encourage consumers to buy more products, the Amish often demonstrate a different perspective. Sometimes the simplest solution remains the most practical one. And this is where things become even more interesting. Because the effectiveness of salt isn't merely based on tradition. There's a reason people have trusted it for centuries. Modern life often encourages us to believe that every problem requires a specialized product. Bad breath? Buy a mouthwash. Dry mouth? Buy another rinse. Sensitive gums? purchase a different treatment. Yet throughout history, people frequently relied on far simpler approaches. Saltwater creates an environment that many bacteria don't particularly enjoy. Rinsing with warm saltwater may help clean the mouth, wash away debris, and temporarily freshen breath. This basic practice has been recommended for generations following dental procedures and for general oral comfort. The remarkable thing is not that saltwater can help support oral hygiene. The remarkable thing is how many people have forgotten about it. Meanwhile, in Amish communities, knowledge often travels through families rather than advertisements. Children learn practical skills from parents. Grandparents pass along household wisdom. Lessons are shared around dinner tables, during chores, and while working together. As a result, simple remedies often survive long after they disappear from mainstream culture. But the salt rinse itself is only one small piece of a much larger picture. If you ask outsiders about Amish oral care, many immediately focus on specific remedies. Yet the deeper secret may lie elsewhere. Fresh breath isn't simply about what happens for 30 seconds after using a rinse. It's connected to daily habits. And Amish lifestyles often include several habits that naturally support overall health. Consider a typical day on an Amish farm. Hours are spent outdoors. Physical work is part of daily life. Meals are frequently prepared from scratch. Processed foods are often consumed less frequently than in many modern households. Family schedules tend to follow predictable routines. While no lifestyle is perfect, these habits create a different environment than the fast-paced routines many people experience today. The Amish approach often focuses on prevention rather than constant correction. Instead of searching for quick fixes, they frequently emphasize consistency. The lesson is surprisingly simple. Small daily habits often matter more than dramatic solutions. But what happened next surprised many outsiders who studied traditional Amish practices. The same principle appears repeatedly throughout Amish life. Walk through an Amish pantry and you'll notice something striking. Many items serve multiple purposes. Salt preserves food. It seasons meals. It supports traditional remedies. Nothing is unnecessarily complicated. This efficiency reflects a broader philosophy. Throughout history, families often depended on versatile household staples. A single ingredient might solve several different problems. Modern life sometimes separates every need into a separate product category. The Amish frequently take a different approach. They ask whether a trusted household staple can accomplish the task effectively. This mindset doesn't reject modern knowledge. Instead, it values resourcefulness. The ability to do more with less has helped Amish communities remain resilient through economic changes, technological shifts, and generations of cultural transformation. And perhaps that's why simple remedies continue to attract interest today. People aren't just searching for cheaper alternatives. They're searching for wisdom that feels practical and timeless. But the most meaningful lesson may have nothing to do with oral care at all. Picture an evening gathering inside an Amish farmhouse. Outside, the countryside grows quiet beneath a canopy of stars. Inside, family members sit together after a long day of work. Stories are shared. Experiences are exchanged. Knowledge passes naturally from one generation to the next. This process may seem ordinary, but it has extraordinary consequences. When communities consistently share practical knowledge, valuable skills survive. Traditional food preservation methods survive. Handcrafting skills survive. Homemade remedies survive. The Amish have become known not because every tradition is unique, but because many traditions were preserved while much of society moved on. In many ways, Amish communities function like living archives of practical knowledge. They remind us that innovation isn't always about discovering something new. Sometimes it's about remembering something old. And nowhere is that lesson clearer than in simple household practices that have quietly endured for generations. Still, the story doesn't end there. Because the relevance of these lessons extends far beyond Amish country. Most people watching this video are not Amish. They don't travel by horse and buggy. They don't light their homes with lanterns. And they aren't likely to adopt every aspect of Amish life. But that doesn't mean there is nothing to learn. The Amish remind us that simplicity often has value. Not every problem requires a complicated solution. Not every useful habit needs expensive equipment. Not every answer comes from a store shelf. Their traditions encourage us to ask important questions. Can we become more self-reliant? Can we learn practical skills? Can we appreciate simple solutions when they work? Can we spend more time learning from previous generations? Perhaps most importantly, can we distinguish between what is genuinely useful and what merely appears impressive? These questions apply far beyond oral care. They influence how we manage resources, build communities, and navigate everyday life. The Amish example suggests that resilience often begins with small habits repeated consistently over time. And that may be one of the most valuable lessons of all. Every year, countless visitors travel through Amish regions in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana. They photograph horse-drawn buggies moving along country roads. They admire handcrafted furniture. They explore markets filled with homemade goods. Yet beneath the surface attraction lies something deeper. People are often searching for an alternative perspective. Modern life can feel overwhelming. Technology evolves constantly. Products multiply endlessly. Information arrives faster than anyone can process. Against that backdrop, Amish communities offer a striking contrast. They demonstrate that a meaningful life does not necessarily require endless complexity. Sometimes value can be found in traditions that have quietly endured for generations. Even something as simple as a salt rinse becomes symbolic of a larger idea. An idea that practical wisdom should not be discarded simply because it is old. An idea that some solutions remain effective precisely because they are simple. And an idea that progress and tradition do not always have to be enemies. As the sun sets over Amish farmland, long shadows stretch across fields that have been worked by generations of families. Horse-drawn buggies return home along quiet roads. Kitchen windows glow warmly against the evening sky. Inside those homes, countless traditions continue. Some are large and visible. Others are small enough to fit inside a kitchen cupboard. A simple container of salt may seem insignificant compared to modern products and technologies. Yet its story reminds us of something important. Wisdom is not always hidden in complexity. Sometimes it survives in the simplest habits imaginable. The Amish salt rinse is more than an old-fashioned remedy. It represents a philosophy of practicality, resourcefulness, and trust in proven knowledge. And perhaps that's why this humble tradition continues to capture attention today. Not because it promises miracles, but because it reminds us that some of the most useful lessons in life have been sitting quietly in front of us all along. Perhaps that's why, while much of the modern world constantly searches for the next solution, Amish communities continue finding value in the wisdom they've carried for generations. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed learning about Amish life and hidden traditions that most people never see, be sure to subscribe and join us for more fascinating stories from beyond the Amish world.